what I wanted to do was just sort of talk through the agenda and also make sure that you're aware of all the presenters that are in the room today. Obviously, both Liz and Kate mentioned that this is very much a collaborative presentation between ourselves and the University of Portsmouth. So Linda Povey is sitting at the side here, and she's, oh brilliant, thank you. She is ready to contribute later on and to help with questions. Also, just introducing some people from the team here. Colleague Catherine Brentnell, Business Advisor. Catherine McGrath has just gone upstairs to get tech help that I no longer need. And somewhere at the back, or you met her on reception, giving your badges, is Nicola Walker. So any of us would be able to help you during the course of today. So we're going to kick off by talking you through our enterprise placement year here at the University of Huddersfield. And then we're going to move straight into Linda's presentation of Portsmouth, because we felt that that would give you a very clear sort of compare-contrast. So without further ado, I'm going to crack on and talk through these slides about how our generic enterprise placement year scheme works. So in a nutshell, it's an alternative to a traditional employment-based placement year. We all recognise the value that having a placement year during an undergraduate degree adds value in terms of skills, learning, development, employability. And actually, here at the University of Huddersfield, it was a student-led initiative that called us to actually start to look at an enterprise placement year rather than just the traditional employee-based. Students were actually saying, what if I want to start a business? Is there an alternative? And so it started approximately 10 years ago. And over the course of those 10 years, it's been refined and to the current model. So it's an option for third-year undergraduate students, and they have to present to us at least an idea which seems credible and viable for them to at least start with. So how long is it? It's actually a 10-month programme. They tend to start the first week in August, and it runs until the end of May the following year. It's important to understand that it's fully accredited placement degree across all of the schools of the university. So in other words, each school went through and created a specific module for an enterprise placement year so that providing the student passes the placement year, they leave with the same placement degree as they would if they were an employee. It is a structured programme, and we'll be talking a little bit about what all the different elements of that structure look like as the presentation continues. And there is literally just a pass or fail outcome. It's not graded. But I think it's really important to say at this point that the assessment and the final recommendation from the enterprise team to the individual schools is based not on the scale and future sustainability of the business the student experiments with. It is much more to do with their engagement with opportunities, their commitment to the programme, their enterprise development. So whilst it would be fantastic to have a student go through the year and create a very large scale and growing business at the end of it, actually they could come to the end of enterprise placement year and say, it's been fantastic, I've learnt so many new skills, I've overcome challenges that I didn't think I could, but what I've learnt most of all is I don't want to be self-employed. That's fine, because we see it very much as part of their education at this stage. So how does it start? Well, the students have to make an application, and this is something we've also developed over the years and refined. So the application process is quite simple and straightforward. We basically ask them 3 questions. A few sentences, I think we ask for 300 words in each section, about their business idea that they think they would like to explore. Also, another 300 words on the stage that they're at. Some people literally have the seed of an idea. Other people have already started to develop something and want to maybe use EPY to expand on it. And the third box, which is actually quite important for us, is about what they want to achieve and what they think they're going to get out of it. We'll be talking later this afternoon about the challenges to an enterprise team, to enterprise educators like yourselves about running an enterprise placement year. And we'll discuss that actually it is not an easy option for the students to go through. And so what we're trying to do at the application and at the interview stage is make sure that the option is right for the student and they know that it's the best option for them for the third year. We request an academic tutor reference for every student that applies. Obviously, the enterprise team are extracurricular. So we see students, when they present themselves to us, either for enterprise placement year or one of our other programs, but they're new to us at that point. They have academic tutors in the main university who are much more aware of the students' progress, capabilities, abilities to respond to challenges and that sort of thing. And so we think that the tutor reference is actually really important. We want the school that the student comes from, the course leader and their key tutors to be backing them and to be behind them. At that stage, when we review the application, if it looks promising, we will then offer an interview. We only introduced that probably about 3 years ago. We used to award places based on application alone, but the interview is now, I think, vitally important. I'm looking to colleagues because they can chime in if I'm missing something key. The interview gives us the confidence that the student is fully aware of what they are signing up for and also that they are aware of what the programme both looks and potentially feels like. So we'd encourage them to talk to other students who might be actually undertaking enterprise placement year currently so that they're learning from that. It kicks off, as I mentioned, in August, typically the first week in August, depending on how dates fall. Until 2015, we used to have an induction day, which was becoming increasingly difficult to manage because as we refine the programme and as we have so many different elements that we can offer in terms of support, it was just too much information to give a group of students in one day. So we reviewed this and we now have a welcome week. And I think my colleagues would agree, well, it was Catherine's idea actually, it was a great thing to do. Apart from anything else, it gets them used to coming into the Duke of York Young Entrepreneur Centre where they're going to be based. They're in every day for that first week, and we split the time between them being free and also having some activities. The idea is that they bond as a group because they're all going through this experience together. They will learn and develop and provide peer support for each other. And we also include some other sort of interesting enterprise activities. So one of the things we think that you might miss as a student in an enterprise placement year is the ability to see what a large-scale business looks like. So in Welcome Week, we actually took them last year out to a local business. That business has been producing pipe cleaners for 100 years. Who knew they still made pipe cleaners? And apparently, in Europe, they are still used for cleaning pipes. But of course, that business has had to innovate and think of new uses for its pipe cleaners. So in the morning, we took the students out there to see a large-scale business, see how it operates, understand what its challenges were. In the afternoon, following a session on creativity, the business challenged those students in random groups to come up with innovative ideas for them to develop. So we're trying to sort of get them used to larger scale businesses as well. And it was really successful. They came up with some amazing ideas.
Yeah, I think just to say as well, some of them were quite rude, the idea, which is again interesting from a student's point of view, but it was really great in terms of getting them kind of stimulated and thinking outside the box.
Yeah. The other thing that our induction or welcome week has allowed us to do is we now get very involved with our staff development team in the university. We have a colleague there who's very interested in supporting enterprise activity, and she actually came and did some sort of staff development type courses, which would usually be for members of staff, but tailored them to students so that they could think about how do you respond to challenges creatively? How do you understand how to be better organised and this sort of thing? So that was a really useful thing to do. So establishing peer connections and working pattern. During the course of Enterprise Placement Year, they have access to our business advisors. We put in 2 compulsory sessions, one immediately after the Welcome Week, because we think it's good to start off the year with each business meeting with at least 2 members of the team and making sure they know what they're doing next. Quite often what can happen is they have Welcome Week, they have a fantastic time, and then it's sort of like, what do I do now? Rabbit caught in the headlights. So we want to make sure that they have got a plan of action. We repeat that compulsory one-to-one in January, because over the years we've learned that January is a typical flashpoint for problems. They've probably gone down the route of experimenting with the idea, they'll have pivoted the idea, they'll have hit some obstacles, they'll have had a break at Christmas and may need just a bit of a helping hand to get back on track for the second half. However, they can access us additional one-to-one meetings as and when they wish. So we have a team of 4 business advisors, each with different specialisms, but we can all do the generic stuff too. Another element of Enterprise Placement Year is...
Sorry.
Oh, sorry.
Are you allowed to ask questions as you go through?
Yes, you can. Yeah, or at the end of each session, whichever you prefer. You asked. Yeah, ask me. Ask me.
Forget it. In terms of the business advisors, are they externals?
No. So our team are all employed by the university. So we have 4, well, if we count me, I'm head of student grad, but I also do business advice. So it's sort of a dual role. And then Catherine and Paul, my colleague who's not here today, are the business advisors. And Nicola is our enterprise coordinator. So that makes up the enterprise team. Everyone apart from myself are part-time. So I'm the one member of full-time staff. We organise it that way because it means that we can have a variety of skills with the advisors. Yeah, thanks for the question. Group mentoring. This is another element that slots into the Enterprise Placement Year, the 10-month period. So about every 4 to 6 weeks during the course of the 10-month programme, we gather all of the students together who are on Enterprise Placement Year, both the generic that I'm describing now and the sector-specific that you will learn about later on. And we tackle issues which are relevant to all businesses. So, for instance, we help them to develop an elevator pitch. We invite them to bring any challenges that they faced in the preceding month or so, and to gain insight from their colleagues, peer students, and the businesses, so that they can actually help and support each other. The other thing we get them to do at that stage is to think about what they would like to achieve by the next group mentoring meeting. So they actually set themselves goals, which we then check whether they've achieved at the next one. We offer workshops and events. On your table, you would have seen a copy of the events brochure. So the event series runs from October through to March. And for Enterprise Placement Year students, this is a compulsory part of the programme. So we require them to attend and we monitor their attendance. The reason being is that when they come onto the programme, we don't assume that they have existing knowledge on things like market research, business planning, financial forecasting, but the event series is our way of delivering on a one-to-many basis that help and support. So it's important that they come along to those events. You can see that in between the sessions which are on sort of the basic building blocks of a business, we also have some things called question time, which is where we bring back our enterprise alumni and they talk about the businesses and the journey they've had, and the audience can then quiz them. And we finish with something called Ask the Expert. The enterprise team here is very fortunate. We have the core team, and around us we have what we call friends of the enterprise team. They could be alumni from the service. They could also be external professional services. So we have legal, accountancy, IT, IP, etc., etc. And you're able to book sort of speed dating sessions with each of those. During the course of the year, it's expected that the businesses will be located here in the Duke of York Young Entrepreneur Centre, which we call the DOYEC for short. if you're new to Huddersfield today and you would like to see the space, you're very welcome at lunch, and I can take you down there, or you can have a wander yourself. It's basically at the other end of the long corridor where the toilets were. So you carry on, and it's the last door, but we can sort that out for you. It's a hot desking facility. We're very fortunate to have it. We have 48 hot desks, and we have 2 central meeting pods. We encourage people to be open plan because they support each other, but the meeting pods in the centre are bookable for both the staff and also for the businesses, so because sometimes they need to be private. So we require them, again, an addition and a refinement over the years, to be in the DOIEC for 21 hours per week. Why 21 hours? Because a traditional placement is 37 hours, but with an enterprise placement, you have the added challenge that you may not have income from your business, at least not in the initial stages. And so we allow the students to work part-time employed if they need to. But we limit that to 16 hours because the focus of enterprise placement year is on their business. So we don't want to discover that someone who's signed up for enterprise placement year is working at House of Fraser 60 hours a week. So we introduced this rule, and we actually monitor by swipe access if they're meeting their targets. We're not trying to tie them to the desk with a ball and chain, but we do understand that there is value to them being in the room because of the opportunities that happen. If they're not managing to keep up their 21 hours, they can talk to us about that, because it could be that they're out seeing external clients, and of course that's completely acceptable, but we just try and have a framework. Yes? No, so the DOIEC is accessed 7 in the morning till 10 at night, Monday to Friday, and at the weekends 8 until 8. Now, if they really had a burning desire to work at 3 in the morning, it is possible to call security and make arrangements, but we try and discourage that because it's just a bit complicated. But yes, it's open a lot. The team are in residence usually 9 to 5. So there's a lot of hours where not only enterprise placement year, but our other students and graduates we support have access to the DOIEC, and they just get on with doing what they're doing.
Do you limit your numbers at 48 in terms of the volume of students that can go into this?
No. So for enterprise placement year, we have a notional limit of 20 on the generic programme. We could take 20 on the sector specific. As it usually works out, we probably have fewer than our maximum on both programmes. This year, for instance, it's just coming to the end, and we're carrying 13 on each, so 13 generic and 13 sector specific. Now, additional businesses, if you include EPY, I think we've currently got 117 hot desk licenses. So if everybody who's signed up and has access to the room arrived, there wouldn't be space. But of course, self-employment doesn't work like that, so they come and go at different times. So typically, you would never see the DOIEC more than a third to half full.
One other question, sorry, just you raised something about sector specific. Is this the generic programme?
This is the generic, and the sector specific will come after Linda's talked about Portsmouth.
And do students pay for the year?
Until 3 years ago, no student paid for placements here at the University of Huddersfield. And then there was a placement fee introduced for all students. It was introduced at £500. I believe, and I am guessing here, I think it's gone up to 750. I'm looking at an academic colleague here. So I think it's £750, which is added to the students' Yes. Another thing which we encourage the EPYs, in fact all of our supported businesses, to do during the year is to apply for proof of concept funding. We're a Santander university, and we have some funding from Santander which we prefer to give out in low level, up to £500 per business idea, proof of concept. We really encourage enterprise placement year to take advantage of that, not only because it will help them to develop their idea further, but also we see EPY as still part of their education, so it's teaching them actually how to apply for funding. It's not a competitive process in that they only get one attempt at the form. They have to do a draft, and we work with them to refine it, so we're building on their skills and abilities to do that. you don't have to repay it. It is a grant. What we tend to do, in fact we're at the process at the moment, by the time it gets to May, if we have any money left, and bearing in mind that we need to use it by July, we have permission to convert the balance to startup grants. And that we would increase to about £1,000, but we would only promote that to students who have accessed proof of concept. So they've gone through the prototyping, testing, they're now ready to launch and start, so we'd give them access to apply for a startup grant, but that is competitive. Another shot of the DOIEC. Networking is very important. We organise events in there. We encourage the students themselves to spend time in there and to not stick with themselves or their business partners. Actually, that's really important. I'm sorry, I forgot. On the generic programme, we used to take groups of students. And over the years, we discovered that once you get partnerships beyond 2 people, even 2 people can be a problem, but once you get beyond 2, we were spending an awful lot of time sorting out domestic rather than business issues. So on enterprise placement year generic, you can apply as an individual or with 1 other partner, so no more than 2 to a business idea. But we encourage them to split away from their business partners and to mix and mingle and to potentially support each other. We actually have a skills exchange board. They may not have the resources to be able to buy in additional support at this stage. We want them eventually to trade with each other. But the skills exchange allows them to say, well, do you know what? I'm really good at web development, but I'm really struggling to get a logo. And so that could facilitate that sort of help. During the year, we offer a number of opportunities for the businesses to present themselves on campus and to potentially trade. So we have an enterprise showcase. Usually it's at Christmas time, so it very much suits businesses that are selling directly to consumers. But we also have people taking a stall who want to conduct market research. So it doesn't have to be just sales. It's about being represented as a student startup at the university and giving them opportunities to talk to not only other students, but to staff and to visitors. Another compelling reason for keeping the businesses active in the DOIEC is that there are lots of opportunities that come up that we can't predict. Obviously, well, the Duke of York, we kind of know when he's coming, but there are other opportunities that we don't. So this Innovation Centre and the DOIEC are on the sort of university tour route. So you can be sitting there minding your own business and suddenly there's a delegation coming in. Now, they could be prime customers or supporters of the businesses we're incubating. So that's another reason for them to be spending time in the DOIEC, because lots of impromptu activities happen. We support a number of competitions, so Santander Entrepreneurship Awards. We also started to organise a 60-second pitch competition specifically for Enterprise Placement Year. We asked them to create a pitch during the course of their placement year, and so it seemed only right to give an opportunity to maybe use that pitch to be recognised. So we organise that each year, and we obviously promote any external business opportunities and competitions that come into the team to those we support. How is it assessed? I'm just keeping an eye on time. So assessment is continuous monitoring. Are they attending the things they should be attending? Are they handing in monthly reports? That's another thing we ask them to do. During the course of the year, each month, they write a report. We give them a template. We do it for 2 reasons. First of all, we as the advisors read those reports and we're maybe able to spot problems before they become serious issues and can offer some help. The other thing is at the end of the year, they're going to be producing a reflective journal, and those monthly reports are useful for the students to look back on, because by the time it gets to April they can't remember what they did in August. At the end of the year, in May, in fact next week, the current Enterprise Placement Year students will be pitching. they do two types of pitch. First of all, they do a 5-minute business pitch where they are persuading the panel that they should either invest or buy their products or services. So that's about their powers of persuasion. They also then, on an individual basis, do a 5-minute reflective pitch on their learning experience throughout the course of enterprise placement year. We found that to be really important, and actually the reflective journal that they have to submit is probably one of the most interesting documents to read from our perspective and from theirs. It's really interesting that things that you thought, I don't really know why that's happening, become very clear when you read the reflective journal. They submit a full business plan and a set of financial documents, and as I say, we monitor engagement through the year. So,
Is there a word count to the business plan? Just out of curiosity.
I'm sorry?
Is there a word count to the business
No.
plan?
No, we give them a template, and the template is actually matched to our event series. So you will see, for instance, in the market research, it'll be linked to the market research event. So what we'd like them to do, in an ideal world, of course students always do this, is as they're working on the business plan during the course of the year. In reality, many leave it to the last minute. But you can only do what you try.
You say those are just assessed on a pass or fail basis?
Yes. So they're split between the team. This year, for instance, I'm doing the business plan, so I've got all of those to assess. And we just because we've been doing it for 10 years, we're kind of familiar with what to look for. So what's their learning gain? Well, the opportunity to develop an idea in a protected environment. We often describe EPY as permission to experiment in enterprise. We do not expect, even though the students do, the idea that they turn up with on day one to be the idea that they leave with 10 months later. It inevitably pivots, and sometimes it's a complete contrast. The experience being the boss, they'll develop huge amounts of transferable skills, and in terms of graduate attributes, we've got sort of evidence of people who have either gone on to then run their business, and that's formed part of their employment portfolio. We've also got examples of people who've decided it's not for me, or not for me right now, but have sold the experience to a graduate employer because they've not just done one element. They've done everything from cleaning, production, marketing, sales, social media. They've got so many things that they can talk to an employer about. And that's me done. And I've got 5 minutes. So lots of questions. Yes, sorry.
Can I ask a question? How do the students fund themselves?
Okay, so as I said, the fee, the placement fee gets added to their tuition.
Mm-hmm.
They're entitled to a half maintenance loan during the course of enterprise placement year. And when we do the interview, we quiz them on how they're going to financially support themselves. Some, as I mentioned, have part-time jobs, which they keep during the year. Others have been supported by friends and family and so have sufficient funds. We do try and counsel them on this because the last thing we want is for them to start and face hardship. So at the moment there is no bursary support. That would be next on our wish list for 2 reasons. First of all, it would give them security during the course of the year, and also I think they progress faster because they wouldn't have to be working part-time.
Yeah.
Sorry, more questions?
Is it, are students only open to home or EU students?
Yes, so international students unfortunately can't take part because we expect students to research and trade, and Tier 4 visa holders are prohibited from self-employment activity. So sadly that is, but that's a Home Office thing, not us. Yes?
When it gets to the very end and they're doing their business plan and financials, what happens if during the course of the year they haven't limited their idea, they've stuck with their idea, but realistically, like most small businesses in the beginning, it's just not viable to actually set up. So their financials are in a negative, etc., etc. If they can demonstrate that realistically they've done their research and that's why they've come to that, is that still a pass, even if it's quite clear that the business would fail?
Yes, because as I say, we see this as part of their education at this stage. In terms of the finances, what we do is we require 2 different documents. So we ask for a financial account, and that would be from the 1st of August until the 5th of April. because that tells us have they earned any money during that year, and we also need to understand and know that because of registering with HMRC. We ask them also so that they're aware of the skills to be able to predict and do a forecast, and we suggest that their financial forecast is based on starting the August after graduation for 1 year. So yes, they're using market research, yes, they've developed the skills to be able to produce those documents. If it is looking like the business isn't viable and they've only just discovered that, so haven't been able to pivot soon enough, they still have learnt an awful lot through the year. Tom?
Building on that, is there any kind of precautions against the business that realises it's going to fail halfway through?
Yes. Yeah, so constantly we are there not to sort of tell them what to do, but to be an impartial ear and voice, and to guide them with different options. It's unusual for people, to be honest, to stick with an idea if it's not working for them, because they do want to be successful. And so I think they would likely come to us and say, is it okay if rather than doing this I do that? And of course the answer is yes. It's permission to experiment in enterprise. So it would have to be a very late stage, you know, sort of catastrophe really to get to that point. Yeah. Dan.
Yeah, just a couple university regulation questions. Because it's an award, do you send it to externals and do you double mark?
So what happens is that initially, when it was first developed, the school themselves would take our opinion on a pass or fail, but they had the right, as they still do actually, to overrule that decision. Actually, as they've become more and more confident in our ability to monitor and progress this scheme, as it's become more confident, they tend to take our recommendation and will honour in the cases where we say we really don't feel we can pass. We give the school all of the evidence that is necessary. Now, I'll be honest with you, the placement officers at that point then take care of that and deal with their external monitoring. And I don't have a placement officer in the room right now, so I can't tell you what happens after that stage. But for us, on the final pitching day, when they've pitched, we've presented to the panel, which is made up of both internal and external people, and we've made our recommendation to the panel that this student should either pass or fail. You know, fantastically, the majority are passes, but we do fail sometimes. At that point, our job is done. It goes back to the school to take care of any further monitoring.
And they can resubmit, I guess?
They never have.
No,
They never have.
I think
No.
the reason it's rare to have a fail is because we're working with them all year, and if they've started out and it's not right for them and they're not engaging,
They could switch.
They can switch. So we head them off at the pass generally before that. So if they do get to the stage where they fail, it's difficult.
To be honest, that's part of the reason we have the January compulsory review, because obviously some students engage a lot. We see them every single day and they're constantly asking for meetings. Others are much more independent or just don't like to engage as much. But the January review, we present to them their progress and their attendance and all of that sort of thing to date. And we would flag at that stage if there's a potential problem. And that's a sort of pull your socks up opportunity. And you know, there is the opportunity. It's not too late at that stage to reconsider and do something different. Yeah.
What else could they do?
So we've had a number of opportunities. So for instance, we had a student who was actually doing quite well on EPY. His business was around sports clothing. He suddenly had the opportunity to go and work with Adidas.
To go into a placement.
To go into a placement. And it just seemed crazy not to allow that, because he'd have the benefits of both worlds, seeing from both sides, so we allowed that. So sometimes it might be going into an alternative placement. Sometimes it could be that the placement opportunity is just not right for the student, and so we do counselling with the placement officers and look at what options there are.
Presumably it'd be possible to restart in January if the academic year lends itself to that, if there's a couple of entry points.
For undergrad, I don't think that would be possible, but what they could ultimately do is they could defer prior to May, which would effectively cancel out the year. They wouldn't then get a placement degree, but there'd be nothing on the transcript about it happening.
The other thing as well is we start at the beginning of August, and some of them realise by the time their course is about to restart that actually it isn't for them. So we have had a couple of instances, and again, these are all quite rare, aren't they, Phil, in the,
Yes,
in the
yeah.
grand scale of things, but that they would just go straight to their third year.
Oh, yes, sir.
You have your alternative challenge where they don't want to come back.
I'm sorry, say
Again,
again.
an alternative challenge where they don't want to come back.
Yes, now that's a challenge. That's a challenge that we'll cover a little bit more because that's happening more with the sector-specific variant. So we'll come on to that, I promise. Yes, sorry, you've had a question
Yeah,
too.
what sort of numbers are you talking about? You mentioned this year 13
13
in
in each, yes.
You've been doing it for 10 years. What have the numbers been like over that time period?
So basically the numbers, because until 3 years ago we only had the generic, so we'd be carrying more or less the maximum 20, 22, 24 on the
Right.
generic scheme.
Right.
As we've started managing the other, because we haven't really grown the team that much, you know, we don't want to have too many, so it becomes
Yeah.
a competitive process.
Yeah.
So that's why the interview and the assessment is really important. So I'm really conscious there's an awful lot of questions, and I'm not surprised, but I don't want to sort of shortchange Linda, because Linda's up next. There is going to be, this afternoon, a question time session where you can ask any of us a Huddersfield-based question, a Portsmouth-based question, or generally across the board, what's your opinion on? So would it be okay if I ask you to hold questions for now and we let Linda tell you about the Portsmouth variant, and we'll come back to questions a bit later on today?